Dead men tell no tales, but their ships speak volumes. Welcome to the Cursed Compass, where we explore the darkest maritime mysteries. Late January 1949, the East China Sea is trapped in total darkness. Navigating through rough, freezing waters with near-zero visibility, the Australian destroyer HMAS Warramunga is rushing blindly toward a distress signal. When the crew finally reaches the coordinates, they throw on their searchlights. The beams sweep across the black water, illuminating a massive field of shattered wood, floating debris, and the bodies of 1,500 people. Most have frozen to death in the winter swells. The Warramunga had stumbled upon the aftermath of one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history. To understand how 1,000 hopeful civilians ended up in this invisible, icy graveyard, we have to trace their journey back to a collapsing nation. By early 1949, the Chinese Civil War enters its final, violent act. Communist forces sweep south across the mainland, systematically taking control of major cities. The ruling nationalist government is collapsing. For the elite tied to the old regime, government officials, bankers, and military officers, the changing tide triggers existential panic. This panic sparks an event known as the Great Exodus, or the Taiwan Strait Run. Hundreds of thousands of desperate citizens flock to the coastal port of Shanghai, trading everything they have for a ticket to safety across the strait. One of the vessels drafted into this frantic evacuation fleet is the SS Taiping. It was never designed for mass refugee transport. It is a workhorse coastal steamer, built for short, routine trips along the shoreline. Look at this schematic of the Taiping's final payload. The ship was rated to safely carry exactly 580 passengers. On January 26th, over 1,500 people crammed aboard. In the lower holds, the crew loaded 600 tons of steel, bundles of government documents, and crates packed with the nationalist government's silver reserves. The sheer weight forces the overloaded ship down dangerously low in the water. Packed with a panicked human payload and top-heavy with cargo, the Taiping leaves the Shanghai harbor as a ticking time bomb. Out on the water, the situation is instantly complicated by the war. A strict military curfew mandates that all ships must run completely dark, without a single navigation light, to avoid detection by passing submarines or coastal artillery. The Taiping is forced to navigate the Zhoushan Archipelago, a notoriously congested shipping lane off the coast of Zhejiang province, entirely blind. Around midnight, moving at a crawl through the darkness, the Taiping collides with the Chienyuan, a stoutly built cargo fighter carrying coal and timber. The impact tears a fatal gash into the side of the Taiping, well below the waterline. The ocean pours in. The massive weight of the cargo drags the Taiping into a severe list. Because the deck is tilting violently and every square inch is packed with passengers, the crew has absolutely no room or time to launch the lifeboats. Within minutes, the Taiping rolls and sinks. The families who had paid exorbitant prices and successfully escaped a war zone find themselves plunged into the freezing depths of the East China Sea. Chao Zhangzhou, a passenger who had been studying in Japan as a child, is violently thrown into the black water. Thrashing in the freezing swells, he manages to pull himself onto a large, floating wooden crate. He drifts in the dark for over 6 hours. Through the night, he listens to the screams fade as the people clinging to debris alongside him succumb to severe hypothermia, lose their grip, and silently slip underwater. When the HMAS Warramunga finally breaks through the darkness and spots the wreckage, the Australian sailors carefully pull Chow and a handful of others onto their deck. They strip off the freezing clothes, dress them, and meticulously work to warm the dying survivors back to life. This data visualization shows the grim reality of that 6-hour wait. Out of the estimated 1,500 people packed aboard the Taiping, only around 50 people survived the night. The staggeringly low survival rate, combined with the freezing temperatures and the tragic loss of so many fleeing families, firmly cemented the disaster's enduring legacy. Today, it is widely remembered as the Chinese Titanic. Yet, in 1949, this massive loss of life was quickly swallowed by the momentum of the war. A few months later, communist forces declared victory, establishing the People's Republic of China and dividing the nation. In the chaos of the shifting borders, official records of the sinking were lost or buried. The shipping companies went bankrupt. For the families permanently separated by the Taiwan Strait, the sinking of the Taiping became a hushed, painful memory that the traumatized families simply could not bear to discuss. That silence held until the mid-1990s. Chao Shangming, the son of the survivor who clung to the wooden crate, decided to embark on a decades-long quest. His goal was to find the specific Australian sailors who had saved his father's life. Tracking down the crew of a scrapped foreign destroyer 50 years after the fact was a logistical nightmare. Shangming's daughter wrote to the Australian Department of Defence, eventually uncovering a crucial lead: a naval veterans club for the Warramunga hidden away in a military base in Sydney. The trauma of the 1949 disaster had forged a lifelong debt for the Cow family. Defying 5 decades of silence and the massive passage of time, they crossed the globe to repay it. In 1996, an emotional reunion took place in Sydney. Chow Jong-jo, now an elderly man in his 70s, finally stood face-to-face with the Australian boatswain and officers who had pulled him out of the freezing water half a century prior. The old men hugged and wept together. Chow hosted a dinner for 12 of the rescuers and their families, presenting each of them with a silk banner that read, "Debt of gratitude as heavy as mountains." The sinking of the SS Taiping remains a staggering man-made tragedy, a direct product of geopolitical collapse, desperation, and a dark, freezing ocean. While the ship itself was swallowed by the black waters of the East China Sea, the memory of its victims did not disappear. The profound gratitude for the few who survived outlasted the collapse of an empire, finally seeing the light of day.